worked out the technical difficulties. Joining me live from Kyiv is Ukraine's Deputy Foreign Affairs Minister, Emine Dzheppar. Emine, welcome.
Greetings from Ukraine, dear Mike.
How alarmed are you by what we are witnessing in Mariupol?
We are, of course, alarmed very much because the situation in Mariupol remains tragic. The city remains surrounded by the Russian soldiers, and the people who remain living and they remain staying, or trying to save their lives in the city. We still don't know the exact number of how many of Ukrainians have managed to abandon the city, but still a huge amount of people are fighting for their lives because of lack of food, water, facilities, warmth, and very basic things that people need. And what I've heard from different people in Mariupol, that families are burying their kids in already near the houses because people have been dying.
Turkey claims Russia and Ukraine are close on critical issues that could lead to a ceasefire. Do you believe that?
It's quite difficult to assess the possible outcome of several tracks of negotiations that we have, both in Belarus and under the mediation of Turkish Republic, and namely Minister Çavuşoğlu and President Erdogan. I think that, of course, as far as Ukraine is committed to the diplomatic resolution, and we've been vocaling it many times, including my president, he's very open, saying that we need to talk, we need a conversation, we need a direct and serious conversation, we need to have a meeting. And he insists on the meeting with President Putin if he's not scared, as he says. I'm quoting him. So let's say that there is a frame that we have managed to elaborate with regards to these meetings and negotiations. Still, there are some issues that has a potential of negotiation, and we're doing so, but still there are some issues that probably may not be compromised. And I'm talking about the territorial integrity, because international law and rule-based order cannot and may not be compromised. So this is probably the biggest obstacle. This is exactly why President Zelensky is insisting on having the meeting with President Putin. And let me be also very frank and clear, saying that Ukrainian diplomacy is actually building up on two elements. These are the armed forces of Ukraine that are bravely keep on fighting and resisting, including people when they stop Russian tanks with bare hands. And we've been seeing many episodes of this, I would say, inhuman bravery and amazing bravery. And then the second issue is that the international community is pretty much consolidated. I have never witnessed this level of consolidation when it comes to the sanction policy, isolation of Russia, and this is something that should be kept on, because as my minister said, that while we have children killed, while we have Ukrainian people killed, sanctions must not be stopped and should not be stopped.
My understanding is you are from Crimea, so my guess is this is very personal, that Vladimir Putin is trying to keep your part of the country. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Like, I have my personal trauma since 2014 when I was a journalist and I traveled the peninsula back and forth, and I saw it with my own eyes and I knew that it was a crime. And let me give a very personal feeling that I think that our inability to give a very proper and a very decisive response to Putin in 2014, and when I say our, I refer not only to the Ukrainian authorities, not only to the Ukrainian leadership, but also to the international community. So the direct consequence of that inability and numbness is this war. And I think that the situation looks like to have this, the Second World War Sudet issue, when the Sudet territory was occupied by Hitler, when the international community, some of the Western countries, were thinking that they could appease Hitler by giving him a piece of land that belonged to the Czechoslovak Republic. So I think that it looks like the same parallel we can have with Crimea. When we believe that we can silence up Putin, that we can appease him, we can reconcile his aggressiveness, I think we are wrong, and we have to be very clear, saying that if we are not able to stop this pure evil here in Ukraine, it will become larger and bigger, because it's always about the nature of aggressiveness. It always becomes bigger when it's not stopped.
I'm sure you have family and friends who would like for you to leave to go someplace safer. I admire your courage. Why do you stay?
Absolutely. This is a very difficult issue. I just had a phone conversation with my kids, with my two daughters 10 minutes ago. I kept myself just not to cry, because I miss them a lot. I'm staying in another place for the safety reasons. We cannot tell the exact places where we're staying, but we are in Ukraine, and the Ukrainian government is fully operating. The system of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is fully operational. So my whole MFA coordination is so far in my cell phone, I would say. So it's because it's crucial for all our diplomats to be strongly coordinated, and we are doing our best just to perform this level of coordination. I think that we're doing a great team job. And what actually amazes me also a lot, even though I'm Ukrainian, even though I've seen it for 8 years, even though I was having my personal story with Crimea, having millions of Ukrainians united, but what we have so far is unprecedented level of unity. And I think that our nation is actually going through this stage of rebirth. And what we have so far, even though we have aggressiveness, cruelty, barbaric treatment, when people were just, killed. And today, for example, the shocking thing happened when Russians in Luhansk region, they were just bombing from the tank, the nursing house, and 55 seniors died because of this barbaric action. I mean, these things is not the Netflix decoration for my country. The cities have been just swept away by missile attacks. And of course, it's quite difficult to see. But from another hand, I believe that we're paying the highest price for our independence, the price of our people, and the life of our people. But I believe that at the end of the day, we will become stronger because we are ready to fight. And we've been proving not only to all others, but to ourselves, that we are a nation and we are united.
Emine Dzheppar, God bless you, your family, and the Ukrainian people. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.